Hi. Wait, let me fix the brightness. Okay. We will be talking about asexuality today. Of course, it's Asexuality Awareness Week. So I'm very excited to have with me Aishwarya, who is a mental health and social science researcher. I'm very excited to talk to them. They are a very dear friend. So yeah, super excited. Also, like, this is my whole like butch look. In case anybody had any questions about me being bisexual, this is my uniform. It's actually my sibling's shirt. I think they're here. I'm going to try and send them a request. Oh no, yeah, they are here.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I love the outfit situation, and I didn't want to join the video while you were explaining it. I was like, yes, please highlight the outfit, and then we can have a conversation.
Right. Let me just explain to them. Let me just. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta be like one of the three kinds of buy, right? You have the denim jacket, you have the leather jacket, you have the plaid. Like it's there.
I can't do a denim jacket or a leather jacket in Bombay. That's just not happening. So,
You can do a denim jacket. I believe in you. You can do a crop top denim jacket. I'm telling you.
but
Tap
is that
into it.
is a
Huh?
crop
Yes,
top
it is.
high enough?
Trust me, it is. Have been cruising and living that life. It works. Uh, so I think that's your next attempt, which is like it keeps you like cold, warm, whatever enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, welcome. I'm so glad that we get to connect finally because I've heard just so much about you from Rahat, who's our friend. Um,
Yeah, it's been entertaining how much she's been like
yeah,
uh, about working with you and like how incredible it is to work with you and collaborate with you. So I'm very excited to do this. I know
yeah. Experience it, and then you'll also want to do this more. This is a trap,
the true gay agenda.
right?
Uh,
Collaboration.
It's just want everyone to work with us actually. Please.
That is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Apologies for the disheveled state of self. It's a Sunday morning,
No,
so I am
great.
not.
Love it that you came as your authentic self, and you look amazing. Yeah.
I love that somebody called Parle G joined. I love it. Sorry, I'm just looking at.
Parley underscore. Because
Yes.
I think just Parle was taken away. Okay, great. Let's just jump straight into it. We are talking about asexuality, and I actually saw that amazing video that you made for your page, the Insta Live that you did, which is now up on IGTV. All of you have to check it out. It's extremely comprehensive, and also like I love the fact that you don't shy away from practicing or expressing your politics, which, like, I mean, as a queer person, sometimes I feel the need to tone police myself a little bit. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't come off as too this or too that. But,
Yeah.
well, like, my life is to this or to that. And I am very,
Exactly.
so,
Uh,
uh,
like
which is
it
what I,
shouldn't have to.
yeah, please say.
Yeah. No, no. I just literally shouldn't have to limit your queerness or your politics over the other in comparison to the other in whatever capacities, right? I think it's also just that. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So it was
Woke
very,
up on
very
the wrong.
inspirational for me, your video. And it's also so accessible. You've not any jargon. You've like given examples and anecdotes wherever possible. So I think that's what makes it a very interesting watch as well. And also, let me it's my podcast patience, but it didn't feel like it was enough. Uh, so
Yeah, I get it.
I call you over here, and I wanted to ask you just a couple of questions as an introduction to what asexuality is. So could you first like explain what asexuality is, and also like in the light of all these other terms that you hear like demisexual and gray sexual, is that all asexuality? Is that somewhere between allosexual, which is essentially the opposite of asexual? Are those other identities somewhere in the between? What is this? Like, demystify this a little bit for us.
Okay, so I'll explain it how I made sense of it. I'm not going to be like this definition fits everyone and so on and so forth. But the idea is that asexuality is when you don't experience sexual attraction towards other people. This is limited to, I feel you need to qualify sexual attraction. Like it's very, very specific because a lot of people assume there's a bunch of things that are involved. What happens when you're talking about, say, gray asexuality or demisexuality is that ideas of sexuality and the way you relate to people, the way you respond to people around you in sexual forms don't fall in specific A or B response. It's not 0 ping, no response, 1 ping, I have a response. It's a range of experiences. We are people, they're people, we're going to respond to them in ways that we often can't predict. So there's a umbrella, asexuality also becomes an umbrella spectrum under which people can explore what it means to them in specific ways. Yeah. So I think demisexual is sort of you not experiencing sexual attraction till you feel like you're close to that person. And you form sort of a connection with that person in whatever capacity, whatever the word connection means to the two of you, right? Gray ace is sort of you experience it in some situations, you don't experience it in some. It's sort of it's for me at the end of the day, labels are terms of convenience. If they work for you, go ahead and use it. If they don't work for you, don't. And it's important to keep that in mind, and like because one way labels help us like sort of express ourselves and talk about these things, but if they become extremely boxed up definitions of how you should be and how you should behave, they've immediately stopped working for you, and sort of need to let that go and not be sort of pressured into never changing these terms or whatever those things look like, right? I feel like there's a weird, like, if you're a certain kind of queer, you need to like, I don't know if you had this experience, but I had a really long time where I was out inside my head, but I didn't know what term I wanted to be using. So it was not about, oh, can I come out to this crowd? It was just like, kya batayega main logon ko? What do I tell them? And it feels like you need to give the right answer, because if you don't give the right answer, then there's no backseas. You can't just be like, no, I thought about it and this is like, then it becomes like, are you queer enough and all of those things. So like strongly against all of that. If that term works for you for like 3 weeks, use it for 3 weeks and discard it if you need to, right? That's where asexuality should fall, as well. So
God, I love that answer, and I relate to that so much as a queer person. And I completely resonate with your experience of that as well, because when I came out as queer and bisexual, I felt this pressure to like immediately start dating women. And
to validate what it can look like, right?
Because I was like, oh, like this is one of the tick marks, right? As an allosexual person, as a person who experiences sexual attraction and wants to act on the sexual attraction, then if I'm attracted to women, then shouldn't I be like, if I call myself bisexual, then obviously I have to like date them and like sleep with them and all of that. No, otherwise, like, how is it valid? I'm only with cis men. So I relate to that so much, and I love that you're saying that we can embrace a label as much as we want to, embrace it in maybe certain situations, maybe for a period of time, try out, see how it feels, and then discard it or like change it up based on how you are responding to it. Love it. Another term that we often come across in this conversation about being ace is aromantic. Being aromantic. What does that mean? What does it mean to be romantic? How is it different from being asexual?
To a certain degree, this is where you start parsing the differences between what attraction means to you, right? So aromantic, name might suggest, just like asexual, is when you don't experience romantic attraction towards people. They don't have to go hand in hand. You don't have to be both asexual and aromantic. You can be one, you can be other. You sort of experience, again, there's spectrums of attraction that are different from each other. I believe there's something called the split attraction model, which says these things are different from each other. And again, if that theory works for you, go ahead and use it. If it doesn't, go ahead and like discard it. But there's a common conflation and an assumption that romantic and sexual attraction are the same thing. To those people experiencing that, which can feel quite stressful, because you sort of, then you don't know what label to adopt. You don't know, like, it's a question of what am I feeling? What is the word for what I am feeling? Sit with the feeling and parse it. It's all about like awkward communication with yourself to a certain degree. When you say sexual attraction, what does that look like to you? When you say romantic attraction, what does romance mean to you? What does it mean for you to want to be in a romantic relationship with someone? It doesn't have to look like 3 dates, candlelight dinner, whatever situation. It can just be that you want to like spend time with them excessively and you don't want to do anything sexual or sensual. But I think the umbrella of, again, like asexuality and aromanticism sort of allows you to explore non-conventional meanings for how you can relate to each other as human beings and form connections. It doesn't have to mean one, it doesn't have to mean the other. We don't need to be boxed by ideas of what the script of a relationship is, because there's this dance you're expected to dance, which is
put all your cards on the table, withhold some cards, mystery. What is all this? Can I just be myself?
Yeah, and like you got to keep some cards to yourself apparently, and not tell people, and like but be self-aware about what you're hiding, because it comes up later. But be your authentic self anyway while hiding parts of yourself. I can't. Like for me, I don't know. Like I feel like I'm too tired to do this much math. I'm good at math in my life, but I don't want to sit and do this much transaction in what my relationships can look like.
Absolutely.
So it's just about like shifting away from that and then being like, okay, like this is a person I want to have some form of a connection in a relationship with. What does it mean? And what do I want to pursue? Like you step back and ask that question, regardless of whether you're asexual or aromantic, you're probably going to be in a better place for it. Because then you know what you're seeking from that person, and it becomes less of a transaction and more of how you're trying to relate to each other. Is sort of how,
God, love answers. No wonder I was obsessed with you.
Stop it.
That if a person is asexual and aromantic, then how are they dating? How are they connecting with other people? And I think what you just said answers that so effectively. Like if I want to date, then what is it that I'm seeking from that situation? It may not be romance or sexual or sex. It could be those two, but it could be a different thing to the person as well, and they continue to identify as asexual and aromantic and want to date. A friend of mine identifies as pansexual and asexual, which is very interesting, right? Because what they say is like pansexuality is a label that I feel a lot of affinity towards, and I feel very authentic when I embrace that label. But at the same time, I experience very little to no sexual attraction to people, and therefore, like I identify as asexual, and that's possible. You don't have to be either or, and you don't have to know your identity for years and years in order for it to be valid. Great. Love these two answers. So, how does a person know whether or not they're asexual? Like, how can you find this out? Of course, you said, sit with yourself, have those conversations with yourself, and which a lot of us don't do. And I also like how you said that it's okay for us to dabble with labels and see what's working and what's not. But I mean, how do you kind of come to terms with the fact maybe that you're asexual or you're not asexual?
So for me, it's been a journey of a lot of stopgaps. And there's this awkward in-joke I make with people being like, I think once in 3 months I'll text somebody and be like, am I really asexual? And it becomes this conversation about who's giving you the report card, first of all. Like, who decides what is asexual enough and what is not asexual enough? very bizarre, right? I'm very, very aware of this theoretically, but these questions come up anyway because you're supposed to act, behave, present in specific ways. So for me, it was a journey of like not just sitting with myself, but also sitting with other people and having conversations, like often awkward, often a specific kind of vulnerable where you need to be an extremely authentic and honest self about what attraction looks like to you if you're an allosexual person in my life. And then sort of me being like, oh, I don't do this, or this. But I do this, and this. What does that mean for me? And then like sort of looking through labels and saying like, okay, it requires understanding that like the difference between sexual arousal and like your like an attraction. Like arousal can exist independent of attraction. Arousal is physiological. You have different forms of responses within your body. Like if you're on medication for mental health for some reason, like for whatever reason, there's a likelihood like your libido takes a hit because that's one of the first side effects they tell you about. Does that automatically make you asexual? No, it just means your sexual drive looks different, right? And there's this automatic assumption that the low sex drive is what makes somebody asexual, which is not true. It's just a lack of attraction. I don't look at a person or any person and say, I want to tap that. Whatever tapping that means in that form, right? Because we have scripts for, again, like what sex should look like. They have this whole hullabaloo about it having to be penetrative in specific ways, and like the very nonsensical baseball analogy where like a home run is considered sex, but like the other three are not. And I'm like, it's all still sexual and sensual activity. Like it still exists in that realm of things. Like the moment you say only penetrative sex is sex, you sort of like shifting power to respond only to patriarchal structures of like sex becoming a power thing. It doesn't have to be. I mean, if you're so I have a lot of thoughts about that as well. But having said that,
another live. I'm just proposing it now because I have a very on sex as well.
And like these are assumptions. I think I was talking to somebody else last week, being like, I really want to discuss like the idea of kink in the asexual community but it'll break somebody's brain to conceive of that because they assume asexuality means prudishness. They don't, but like sexual activity and sexual attraction don't have to exist on the same plane. You can have sex for more than one reason. It doesn't have to be, I really, really want to have sex with that person. It can just be, I want to have sex. I want to experience pleasure. I want my partner to feel happy. Like it can be a bunch of things. And there's that assumption that it has to be this one meaningful thing that like that's magical and mystical and beautiful. And I'm like, no. Why? Like the moment you sort of make it that thing that's elusive and misunderstood, you're othering already. You're not othering through actions. It's saying you don't belong, but like the moment somebody's script for sexual activity or sensual activity doesn't look the same, you're asking them to second guess themselves and their stance on everything simply because it doesn't fit your narrative. And I'm just like, no, actually, please don't. So, yeah.
What I agree so much with everything that you're saying, and all our audience members have also been saying that you've given them words for what they've been thinking and what they've been feeling, which is wonderful. Oh my God, this is so powerful. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me and for like sharing your wisdom and sharing your lived experience with our audience as well. I wanted you, in conclusion, to talk a little bit about the Mental Health Professionals Network, which is a page that you run. It's a project that you run with Rahat, if I'm not wrong. So if you could tell us a little bit about it. A lot of mental health professionals also watch watch these IGTV series. So if you could tell them how they could maybe come and be a part of it.
Absolutely. So yeah, the Mental Health Network, Professionals Network. is a space where we wanted to create for Indian mental health professionals and people in adjacent spaces. Like, I'm not a therapist, but I am in the mental health space. It's a space we created because, one, the space doesn't exist. I can't be a mental health professional and say, can I talk to a mental health professional who's not my coworker or not my supervisor or has not trained me or has not studied with me? Like, if you want to make a connection outside, good luck if you want to, right? You need to do the specific forms of reaching out. You need to engage and be like, what does that look like? And all of this bureaucracy, I'm going to argue for now, has also resulted in the space being inaccessible. So you enter the space as a professional and then you're like, now what do I do? You have questions that you like, when like, I know multiple people who started off as therapists and they're like, what I learned in class has nothing to do with what I'm engaging with in practice, because you're responding in real time. Like, what do those things look like? Who do I ask those questions to? And sort of mental health network was born from a space of how do you address these lack of boundaries in professional spaces for mental health professionals in India for now. Because outside of India, there's like regulation, there's like accreditation, what that looks like is like supervision in very structured forms and training in very structured forms. Those things don't exist in those specific ways in India. And a common thing that has been happening since March in particular has been burnout and like the need for mental health shooting up because of COVID, and us just not having enough professionals to deal with that. Just it happens. And suddenly people shifting online. Every person wants to do a webinar about something. Every person wants to do what is mental health because suddenly they care. Because employee productivity is low, right? All of that is, it sort of transfers to a mental health professional as well, in the stress they experience, in how they navigate these things. And like, so mental health network was born out of us wanting to address that for professionals. What would it look like to enable them to set boundaries, to have those conversations about burnout, to have the tools to practice self-care? When you feel like an imposter when you're starting in the career, nobody's going to sit and tell you don't feel like an imposter. But how do you have a community of people that supports you on that journey? So that's what we're trying to achieve broadly. Right now, we have a charter that we're trying to send out to mental health organizations, which asks for mental health leave for mental health professionals, like 1 day a month. If you're a mental health organization that values the world's mental health, surely you can do that for your employees, right? And we're trying to keep that separate from like sick leave or whatever, right? Like, or casual leave, because these are not those things. Mental health is a real and tangible thing that affects your life in real and tangible ways. So we're starting there. It's baby steps. It's a project that is very community led and very community run, which we're really excited about. Like, for instance, like we have just given the reins of our Insta to a person who handles it brilliantly. Once in a week, we just have to be like, just we wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, what's going on the Insta today? Like, and it's really fun process like that. Like, it's great that way. But how we'd like for professionals to be involved, or even non-professionals if you're interested, is we have a link tree for both, which includes links to sign up as both a mental health professional and a non-mental health professional. And you have options for how you can contribute in what capacity. None of this requires, again, obviously monetary resource, because we're all doing this for like free. So you can choose to engage, how much time you can commit, what your commitment can look like, and how you want to affect change, which can be very powerful. And agency granting to mental health professionals who are deprived of that in professional spaces quite often. So we're hoping to change the dialogue around that and move towards change and what that can look like. So yeah.
I love it. I love it so much, and I can't believe I haven't signed up yet. I'm going to.
Yes. But otherwise, I'll guilt you into it, don't worry. I'll just be like, hey, fully guilt. No, I will revoke your denim jacket. I will revoke your denim jacket membership if you don't sign up. So
yeah, okay, fine. I will right away. Thank you so much. Maria, for this conversation. It was very enriching, and I learned so much from it. I hope our audience enjoyed it too. And yeah, I'm gonna take you up on your offer of doing another session together. Did you offer that sometime in the middle? You did, no?
Sure. Yeah, it's happening. Sounds great. I can if as long as every conversation doesn't start from point zero, it's very exciting to have these conversations. So yeah.
Bye. Have a good Sunday. Thank you for doing this.
You also, please rest also, and
I will. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.